After weeks of gritting its teeth under mounting U.S. pressure, China has hit a breaking point, and the world has been watching the exchanges between the two countries. We wonder, have China and the U.S. really talked? Well, depends on who you ask. The CCP says no talks, no negotiations, no meetings. Meanwhile, Washington says, of course we're talking. We've been in daily contact. So, what's the truth? On April 23rd, Trump gave an interview at the White House. He said the US and China are in direct contact every day over trade issues. And it didn't stop there. In a Time magazine interview published on April 25th, Trump dropped another bombshell. Xi Jinping personally called him. Trump said, he's called, and I don't think that's a sign of weakness on his behalf. And just when you think Beijing might quietly let the news fade, their embassy in Washington jumps online and posts, no talks. No talks, really. There's no talks. So when the CCP denies something that loudly, they're probably hiding the opposite. But why has Beijing adamantly denied it? Here's the short answer. In the Communist Party's world, saving face is everything. The long answer is more troubling, and it's the real focus of tonight's talk because it involves one of the hottest geopolitical flashpoints in the world, Taiwan. And we'll discuss, first of all, why Taiwan is at the heart of China's strategy in dealing with the US, specifically the Trump administration. And then why Beijing is desperate to seize Taiwan now. And then we'll give you some of the updates on the latest developments inside Taiwan and why they matter. So when Xi Jinping called Trump, he wasn't calling him to discuss trade or tariffs, because that would have played right into Trump's hands. So what did they talk about? Well, in my opinion, and the opinion of some other experts, Xi Jinping used the call to make demands about Taiwan. Why? Because Taiwan sits at the very top of CCP's priority list. It's the core issue in the CCP's entire strategy towards the US. That strategy was revealed in January by Chinese dissident Professor Yuan Hongbin, and I covered it in detail when the report first came out. Here's what we now know. After Trump won the election back in December, during a high-level Politburo meeting and a separate closed-door National Security Committee session, Xi Jinping disclosed what he told Biden in their face-to-face meeting. He demanded that the U.S. not only say it doesn't support Taiwan independence, he wanted Washington to explicitly oppose Taiwan independence and publicly support cross-strait unification. This was what his sources disclosed to Professor Yuan back then. It is part of Beijing's larger game plan. They want to use that strategy for Trump. The goal is to weaken Taiwan from the inside and eventually absorb it without firing a single shot. Here's the game plan. If the Trump administration were to publicly oppose Taiwan independence, it would deliver a major psychological blow to Taiwan's military and shake public confidence across society. Professor Yuan said that this kind of messaging would seriously erode Taiwan's internal resistance. And that's exactly how the CCP hopes to achieve its goal, winning the war without even starting one. Yuan's sources also reveal that Xi Jinping gave direct instructions to China's diplomatic corps. The foreign ministry, he said, must use quiet but effective channels to send a clear message to Trump's team, which is that if Trump publicly states he's against Taiwan independence and supports peaceful unification, then the CCP is ready to make major concessions in other areas. Xi Jinping and his advisors believe Trump is a deal maker at heart, a businessman who loves to negotiate. So their play is this: make concessions on issues Trump cares about in exchange for softening the US stance on Taiwan. That, according to Professor Yuan's sources inside the system, is the core of the CCP's strategy in dealing with Trump 2.0. And another prominent China scholar, US-based economist, Professor Chen Xiaonong, who I believe is based in Princeton, believes that Taiwan is at the heart of the US China relationship and the tariff war, and that when Xi Jinping called Trump, the topic is Taiwan. He believes Beijing wants to set a political condition before it's even willing to start trade talks with Trump, and that condition is Taiwan. And here's how he explains it. The CCP is a political beast. Its leaders are skilled at power plays, not economic management. In their world, politics always comes before trade. And that's why to them, Taiwan is a more important strategic move than tariff negotiations. And this is not a secret. Beijing has publicly stated so. Bloomberg reported on April 15th that China laid out four conditions for starting trade negotiations with Washington. One is US officials must stop making disparaging remarks. Two is the US must take a more consistent position on tariffs. Three is both sides must appoint official negotiators. And the big one, the most substantial one, the one that actually carries the most weight, is that the US must address China's core concern, Taiwan. Xi Jinping's demand to Trump was this: if you want to talk trade, you must first publicly oppose Taiwan independence. And, and CCP's plan is this: if Trump were to make that statement, the CCP's propaganda machine would kick into overdrive. They would blast out the message across Taiwan and globally that the United States has abandoned Taiwan. And America is now siding with Beijing on the question of unification. And it wouldn't matter how the US tried to clarify or walk it back later. Beijing knows how to twist the narrative. And let's not forget, they have more friends in mainstream media than Trump does. That's why many believe this is what Xi Jinping called Trump for. The offer is simple. Say you oppose Taiwan independence, and we'll give you what you want in a trade deal. I don't believe Trump took the bait, and that's likely why Xi Jinping is furious. And that, in my opinion, is the real reason the CCP is now pretending that no talks ever took place. But you may say, come on, Beijing's been making this kind of demands for decades. And what's new? Here's what's different now: the urgency. Beijing has never been this desperate to take Taiwan. And there are three big reasons. First, China's economy is bleeding out. Beijing desperately needs a financial blood infusion to stay afloat. And they've set their eyes on Taiwan, on its wealth, cutting edge industries, and military strength. They want Taiwan's semiconductors, medical technology, and private capital. In short, the CCP wants to plunder Taiwan's economic strength, technological edge, and personal wealth. Seizing Taiwan will give Beijing the lifeline it needs to resuscitate its dying economy. And reason number two is a military takeover is becoming less and less realistic. Why? Well, because the PLA is in chaos, plagued by purges, corruption, and internal instability. You can watch my many programs on that topic, so I won't go into details here. Meanwhile, Taiwan's defenses are getting stronger. US Taiwan cooperation is deepening. And at this point, launching a full scale invasion of Taiwan is next to impossible. And the CCP leader knows it. And reason number three is Beijing worries that its stealth approach to Taiwan unification is losing momentum and time isn't on their side. So let me explain this. After the one country, two systems model failed in Hong Kong, Beijing stopped even talking about it. For Taiwan, it has switched to a stealth approach. It's a soft takeover from within approach that can be described as a gradual cross-strait integration. So the plan is to make Taiwan slowly, quietly, and almost unknowingly merge into mainland China through political infiltration. Specifically, the tactics are buying off politicians, controlling narratives, embedding influence, and enable pro-Beijing politicians to eventually control Taiwan legislative and even the executive branch. But unfortunately, the Taiwanese public is increasingly aware of CCP's game plan and is resisting pro Beijing politicians. The CCP's secret operatives in Taiwan are facing growing hostility and shrinking room to operate. As time goes on, these forces will be further weakened. And that is why time is not on Beijing's side. The longer they wait, the more Taiwan strengthens its defenses, and the harder it becomes for Beijing to unify, quote unquote, unify the island by any means. And so, this is the third reason why CCP feels a sense of urgency. Now, around the Lunar New Year time this year, grassroots groups across Taiwan launched a massive recall campaign targeting pro CCP lawmakers. And what's remarkable about it is that this effort is bipartisan. Some old school KMT veterans who are staunchly anti-communists have joined forces with DPP supporters. Their goal? Purge the legislature of pro-Beijing politicians. Of the total 35 KMT lawmakers facing recall efforts, around 25 to 27 are expected to move into the second phase of petitioning. And it's estimated that 10 to 12 may actually be recalled. And here's the key point: the DPP only needs to flip 6 seats to regain control of the legislature. And that's not all. There are two more reasons for the CCP's growing anxiety. One is that for the first time ever, Taiwan's recall movement is openly using quote, defend Taiwan, oppose the CCP as its core platform. This kind of messaging used to be taboo in Taiwan. Now it's front and center, and Beijing understands its impact. And the second concern is the recall campaign has caused a major rift inside the KMT. Like I said, some traditional KMT voters, especially those who've always been anti communists, are now siding with the DPP, uniting around the shared goal of resisting Beijing. And this kind of cross party alliance is something Beijing fears most. So, if this momentum continues, it could completely dismantle the CCP's influence in Taiwan, which has long depended on political proxies inside the island's democratic system. So, to summarize, what started as a trade war has revealed something far more urgent: Beijing's desperation to use economic pressure to force a political deal over Taiwan. Xi Jinping's call to Trump wasn't really about trade. It was a covert attempt to secure a lifeline for China's collapsing economy. I do not believe Beijing ever intended to negotiate in good faith. With entrenched factions behind Xi Jinping, real compromise is nearly impossible. Instead, the CCP sees Taiwan's wealth as the solution to its crisis. So, Xi Jinping's call failed, and Beijing, embarrassed, rushed to deny it ever happened.